All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We are going to be talking about AI ministry tools, trends, and use cases for church leaders. We're going to explore what AI is, how it's already being used in churches today, and where it's heading. So, a few quick reminders. We do want to make sure that you get your questions answered. So, if you have questions as we go throughout today, be sure to throw them in the Q&A, not the chat. You can tell Trace and Chris how awesome they are in the chat, but in the Q&A, we'll actually be monitoring those questions. We'll have time at the end to make sure we can get those answered. We are recording, so you will get this recording early next week through your email. There are also quite a few QR codes that you're going to see today. Don't feel like you have to scramble to catch them all on your phone as we go. We're going to also include the slide deck in the email with the recording so that you'll all have time to see those. Alrighty. So for those of you who may be new to ACST, we have been working for over 45 years supporting churches of all sizes, from hundreds to thousands in weekly attendance. We try to help them thrive in every season of ministry. We've always focused on equipping churches with tools and services that make ministry flow a little bit smoother, from church management solutions, giving solutions, mobile apps, and IT services. But now we're excited to be at the forefront of something new, and that is AI for the church. So, Kingdom Creations is the innovation lab of ACS Technologies. They are blending technological advancement with spiritual purposes, so creating tools that empower churches to focus on what matters most to you, which is your mission. So I'm Leanne Ortega. I've been with ACST a little over 5 years now, coming from working on staff at a church as a communications director. I now work in product marketing here, and I love getting to hear from churches about how our solutions really fit their ministries and help push them further into their mission, help push the kingdom further into their communities and beyond. But I'm excited today to be able to introduce Chris and Trace from Kingdom Creations. So Chris Cahias, he is the Vice President of Innovation at ACS Technologies, where he really leads the charge in developing next-gen technology solutions for churches, with a particular focus on integrating artificial intelligence into ministry applications. A lifelong technology enthusiast, Chris brings over 2 decades of experience in church technology and innovation to his role. And Trace Jackson, she has over 18 years of experience working with churches, beginning her professional journey in 2006 after years of dedicated volunteer service. As the innovation project manager, Trace really keeps the wheels on our innovation team, ensuring that groundbreaking ideas transform into practical solutions for faith communities. And if you have not noticed our awesome avatars that were created here with AI, I know Trace will talk about that here in a few minutes, but we are matching them. So had to call that out. All right, I will hand it off to Chris. Go ahead.
All right. So we are super excited to be with you guys today. Like Leanne said, all of our focus has been on AI. And today we're going to be focusing on one facet of AI, and that is generative AI. So some of you may be wondering, what's the difference? What's generative AI versus AI? And what I can tell you is there are many schools of artificial intelligence right now, everything from generative AI, where we'll be today, through things like machine learning, decision support systems, computer vision, even robotics. They are all encompassed under that umbrella of artificial intelligence. But today we're really focusing on generative AI. And what makes generative AI very cool is it, as it may sound, generates things. So its primary purpose is to create things. It can create text, it can create images, it can create audio and video and music. So we're going to be focused today 100% on generative AI and how it can be used within the church. I will need somebody to click the next slide because I lost my controls. Oh, now I have them again. There we go. Okay. So some of the ways that we're seeing, some of the trends that we're seeing in our churches.
I think it's me. I think we're gonna hop into trends right after. I think we're gonna hit the avatar screen. Leanne, do you wanna, there we go. So yeah, so as Chris mentioned, along the lines of generative AI. And before we actually go any further and dive deep into things, we think you need an avatar. So as you saw in the earlier slide, Lillian introduced us. We all have avatars that represent us, and we matchy our clothes with them. But these avatars were generated using AI, and why not, right? It's fun, but also it's a really great way to start using AI because there's no commitment, there's really no learning curve. So as you can see here in the collage on the top left, that's my real photo. And all I did was just uploaded it into our avatar generator. I told it which style of avatar I wanted, and it created the avatar. And you can see I did it multiple times. And this is an easy peasy entry-level AI tool. Your student ministry pastors will love it. They'll be all over it. And our team at Kingdom Creations developed this app, and we're offering it to you for free. So scan that QR code and enjoy. But if you don't have an opportunity to scan these codes throughout this presentation, that's okay. You're going to get a PDF of all of these afterwards so that you can be fully present with us if that helps. All right,
Okay,
moving on.
Now we're ready for trends. Sorry about that earlier. So let's talk about trends that we're seeing already in the church with using generative AI. So we're seeing a lot of sermon repurposing. And what is that, you might ask? It's, well, we're going to take the content that your pastors are already creating, and we're going to find creative ways of repurposing it. Don't worry, we're going to demo several of those for you in some upcoming slides. But also, we're seeing kind of a growing usage by pastors in both sermon illustrations, sermon research, and some of the supporting materials that go along with sermons. We're also seeing a lot of general writing assistance. So take this thing, make it sound like this. Take this email, make it sound happy, make it sound forward. I've even worked with one pastor who had to do, we hate talking about this part, but had to do kind of a write-up on one of their employees, and they said, I need this to sound firm, but encouraging. So those are the kind of things that AI and generative AI specifically are really good at. And last, we're seeing lots and lots of usage in marketing, website creation and content, and blogs. So let's deal with some of the real use cases from some churches. We told you we were going to get you into these. So here we go. First up, we're going to talk about researching sermon materials. So these are going to be fun. A lot of these are going to be real from both Trace and I with our pastors. And the first one up is my pastor was doing one of Paul's missionary journeys. He's walking from Athens to Corinth. And we wanted to do some research of, hey, how would that translate to today? So again, here you're going to see an example from ChatGPT. In biblical times, how long would it take a person to travel from Athens to Corinth? So obviously, it's going to give us way more of an answer than we're interested in. By foot, 3 to 4 days. By mule or horseback, 2 to 3 days. By sea, well, probably not going to happen because very, very expensive and time consuming. So after that, it goes, okay, we know we want to do this by foot. So he said, how about a map? How would I show the church body a map of going from Athens to Corinth? So I picked my favorite mapping tool. By the way, we used AI in the first step. Second step, I'm just using a mapping tool like Google Maps, Google Earth. Now I've turned everything off, all the boundaries, all of the cities and the roads, and I just have some basic topography. I said, well, there's a map. And he said, no, that's not enough. I want this to look old. I want it to look ancient. So basically, I loaded this into Sora, one of the AI, the generative AI image creators. And I said, I want this to be ink on parchment, ancient looking map. And lo and behold, a few seconds later, I have a lovely old world looking map. Now, the next part I'm going to show you is why you need to continue to be an expert on what you're doing. The next thing I did is I asked it to go ahead and, hey, add the city locations of Athens and Corinth. So it did its very, very best, and I got this. Now, some of you may be looking at that map going, man, that looks really good. And yes, it does. with the notable exception of that is not where Athens is, nor is that where Corinth is. So in a moment like this, you need to know your content. And what we ended up doing is we took the map you saw before, and we just used Photoshop to go ahead and add the Athens and the Corinth dots in. So image generation, AI is doing great. Full maps with cities and things like that, I would be very cautious.
Always check your work, right? Now,
Always.
I'm the communications director for my church. So, like Chris, my real use cases are actually mine. So you get to hear how I use AI in my role at my church. Now, many times I will turn to Flux, which is an image generation model. There's also ideogram out there as well. But Flux will help me create sermon series graphics. So in this example, we were about to study the book of Ruth. So you probably can't read it, but my prompt to Flux was to create a background of a cascade of hearts. And it was okay, but not exactly the look I was after. So I told it to try again. And if we can advance to the next ones, you'll see this time I wanted it with more hearts, and I wanted them cartoony looking, and it was closer, but still not what I wanted. So I told it to try yet again with even more hearts. And see, I loved it. I told it to make them very light color of pink instead of red. And this was it. It was perfect. So then I just took that image and I popped it into Photoshop, and I added some text, and voila, our series had a brand. And from there, I was able to use this graphic for our website, social media channels, and I even used another version without text and stuff as a background for all of our sermon slides. And as you can see, I didn't take the first thing it gave me. I said, no, try again, no, try again. But I also use AI for a lot of my marketing communications. So in my experience, ChatGPT does the best job of providing social media post content. I mean, it'll even recommend relevant emojis to use. It's so cute. And I'll usually ask for about a week's worth of post content on a particular topic or scripture, and then use all of the generated content as a launching pad to then help me form the posts myself. I don't usually take what it generates as my final draft. It mostly just helps me get past that blank page syndrome. That is so hard for me to say. I've stumbled over it every time I try to say that. But then once I have the content from the posts, I'll turn to Flux or maybe ideogram to then generate accompanying image. So that's how I use AI for all of my sermon graphics and marketing. Okay, this one's fun. AI also does a great job with official documents. Now here, I turned to Claude rather than ChatGPT. Personally, I found that Claude is a little bit more formal, which is great, for all those policies and procedures. And again, you probably can't read the prompt, but what I said was, write policies and procedures for the communications department for a church called Ure Christian Fellowship, my church. I told it that the policies should include the typical policies and procedures that any communications department would need, but should also include like following Christian principles and godly manner in everything that the department does. And it generated an incredible amount of content for me. And again, you always want to review and likely tweak AI generated content. But as you can see, Claude gave me a great launching pad to work with. It even tossed in, as you can see on this next slide, a mission statement and core values that I did not even think to ask for. So thank you, Claude, for thinking of that for me. And then look here, all of the typical communications things that you would expect. And then here's a great portion, all around spiritual guidelines. And what you don't see are some ideas on training and development. So it was incredibly thorough, more thorough than me, and helpful, and a great use of AI, specifically Claude, with respect to what I needed as a communications director. Now, you can also use AI to give you a head start on writing job descriptions as well. And our team has even used AI to compare candidates based on the resumes we've received and what our team's needs are. And fun fact, we tried that and it selected a candidate that, after we did our own human due diligence, we decided that we agreed with AI's assessment, and that person is now a part of our team. That was fun. All right, next up is reuse.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you heard me talk in the beginning about a lot of churches are using AI to do sermon repurposing. So this is one of my pastor's notes when he was teaching through 2 Timothy chapter 3. And these are his notes. So this is just what he used to prepare to get ready to teach the sermon. So he gave me permission to use these in some of these AI talks. So I continue to use this one because it is a lot of fun. Now, one of the things that my church does, all of our sermons are on the website, and we do some weird things like our church body wants to see the church notes so they can print them and bring them to church with them. This goes way back, like 30 years. Somewhere along that continuum, we started doing this, and now we can never stop. So, but with that, our pastors, they've all been tasked with creating a description of their sermon that goes on the website. It goes with the notes, it goes with the sermon. And I think my pastors teach really, really great sermons. And about 6 months ago, I did an AI talk, kind of a training with all of my pastors. And I said, I'm about to show all of you the one thing I expect you all to do moving forward if you do nothing else with AI. I said, because we all know you're so good at sending us the description for the website. And then we all said, not. So we usually get I'll be teaching through 2 Timothy chapter 3. And I'm like, please, the marketing guy in me is screaming, help me sell this sermon. So what we're going to do in this next, this little piece here, I'm going to take his raw notes, his Word document, and copy and paste it right in. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is say, create a short description about the main point of this sermon from the notes provided. And as you see right there, sermon summary, a life worth modeling. Perfect. Goes along with the title. This sermon explores 2 Timothy 3:7, encouraging believers. Awesome. So it gave me exactly what I wanted. So this is the repurposing 101. So this is one of generative AI's superpowers, is the ability to take a large volume of text, simplify it, reword it, reuse it, do things with it, but maintain the contextual relevance of it. So the next thing I did is said, that's great, but I want it less than 50 words because now I want to, I don't know, maybe shoot it out as a text message. So boom, make this description less than 50 words. Two things going on here. One, demonstrating something called a context window. So all the generative AIs that you're going to work with, they have a certain memory called context. So it's why we can just tell it something else and not have to start over like we do when we're doing a Google search. You can't really refine a Google search. When you're working with AI, specifically text, you can refine it by simply saying, do this instead. Don't do that, do this. We'll talk a little bit more towards the end about the power of the word no. But so in this case, I just said, make this description less than 50 words. I should have said please. We'll deal with please and thank you in a minute. And that's a joke for those of you who may or may not know. So again, boom, we got it in 50 words. Now, the other things that we can do, specifically ChatGPT, but Claude to a little bit lesser degree, and other engines equally so, multilingual capabilities. So we've now gone from giant, 4 or 5 pages of sermon notes to probably about a 250 word description to a 50 word description to that description reworked in Spanish. So yes, ChatGPT and Claude, but they can both translate to most of your primary languages, both to and from, making them really powerful if your ministry is trying to do anything multilingual. The other thing that you can do is you can have it take a giant, again, volume of data. You saw me turn it into to short descriptions. We can also go ahead and have it outline this a little bit more into main points. So I spun this around this time and said, what were the main points of the sermon? And we immediately get it broken down into a, call it pseudo outline bulleted form. The other thing we can do is have it move from descriptions and shortened versions to even having it help us create and write. So this giant block of text, we've moved from the pastor's sermon notes. So the notes he created. Now what you're looking at is we actually took the audio. So he taught the sermon. It's Monday morning. And now I want to use what he actually said to create new content for my website. So this is using transcription. You're asking what AI program is this? Well, hang on, we'll get to those. And I'm not supposed to be looking at the chat. But here we go with the transcript. So we're using OpenAI Whisper to take the audio and turn it back into text. And now we're going to actually use the words that the pastor wrote. So I know, because my church has been working with transcription now for about 6 months, that he'll speak about 9,000 words in an hour. And what we're going to do with this is spin it into something else. I lost my screen control again, guys. I'm sorry. Can somebody advance it? Okay. So in this case, we're going to ask it to help me create a short daily Devo from the sermon. So pastor taught the sermon on Sunday. It's Monday morning. I want to get ready to do some devotional work. So I want to create a Devo that can be used to support this. So I'm going to prompt, in this case, I'm using ChatGPT or Claude. They both would work very well in this case to help me create this Devo. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about a lot with AI with you guys is the more you tell it, the more direction you give it, the better the output's going to be. If I were to say, just give me a short daily Devo, it will probably do a great job because, again, it has a ton of context. We've loaded the entire sermon into it. But if you want to do something that is a little bit more nuanced, see what I did with this prompt. It should go a little deeper into one of the main points and provide opportunity for self-reflection and personal growth. So again, at our church, we're trying to use our Devos to really get people to dig in and go deep. So that's what I'm telling the AI engine that I want it to do. So it's going to give me back a quite lengthy, if you will, Devo here. So, I mean, it's not too long. It's 1 page. But it's summarized one of the main points. It's provided a moment for reflection. It's given a scripture from the context of the sermon in which for them to meditate. And then it's also helped them by helping them guide them through a prayer. So if you've got a new believer or a young believer, what a great opportunity to, again, reuse the words your pastor has already taught in a new way. So in this case, we're not trying to replace something. We're just simply trying to find a very economical way of reusing it. Now, if I want to take this and keep going, I can now ask, and in this case, you can see it, I'm using Claude to say, hey, I want a midweek email to remind them of 2 of the points. So maybe what I'm doing is I wake up on Monday, I'm going to create 5 Devos. So there's something every day that's digging deep. And that's going to really appeal to a certain audience at your church. But maybe there's another audience at the church where maybe they're signed up for your church, your weekly email or your newsletter. And I just want to remind them on Wednesday of the 2 main points from the sermon as a way to continue to have them engaging in what's going on in the ministry. And AI is great for that, except that I gave it a very unbounded thing. I said, help me create an email. Well, it just gave me an email that's longer than the devotional. So this is not the moment that you give up on AI. Some people would look at this and go, see, AI, whatever, it doesn't know what it's doing. No, it's a tool. I didn't use the tool the right way. So watch this. Instead, I'm going to go back and say, update this email to be much shorter and to the point. Ain't nobody got time to read that. They came to church on Sunday. Okay, I want to remind them, not repreach them. And I wrote, also, don't start with Dear Church Family, because that is a dead giveaway that you are using AI, Dear Church Family. And then look, I'm giving it very concrete instructions. Instead, make it personal by inserting first name. My email system can replace tokens. Now, if that's true for you, great. Maybe some of you like Dear Church Family. It's okay. So with this prompt intact, I'm going to hit it. And look, we get a very straightforward, hi, first name. This Sunday, we explored a life worth modeling, 2 key points, month of devoted connection. And what's really cool about this is this sermon was actually preached in December at my church. And if you see it, it says, "See you Friday for Carol the Avenue." It's where our church actually went to one of the outdoor mall spaces and did caroling. Now, I didn't ask it to include that. It pulled it out of the context of the sermon because towards the end of the sermon, my pastor actually said that. So again, if you start stitching all these pieces together, you can create some really powerful content. So in addition to the tools that we are building at ACS on the Kingdom Creation side, we are also trying to partner with a number of organizations in the church ecosphere who are also doing cool stuff with AI. And I'm excited to kind of give you a summary of these. So most of these, there are going to be other webinars that are available, and Trace will cover that in a second. But let's dive right in. Logos. Logos is our newest one. Many of you have known about Logos. Many of your pastors are probably using Logos. We wanted to share with you that ACS has recently entered into a partnership with Logos to bring their newer version of the software to the church space. We just did a webinar on it. It's pretty wild. They've brought AI in, and AI is going to help your pastors leverage their library in ways they really haven't been able to before. The other thing, kind of another little fun tidbit here, is Logos is not it's not as crazy as expensive as it used to be. So one of the things they did is they've introduced some lighter weight versions of it that, frankly, as the small groups leader for my church, I am exploring right now, trying to figure out, hey, could I work something where we could make this available to like my home group leaders, because they are teaching from the Bible. So it's definitely something to go check out. And again, Trace will show you guys in a few minutes all the fun webinars.
And they are offering a ton of discounts. Like our partnership, they're offering a ton of discounts for you guys. It's pretty remarkable what they're offering.
So Interprenet is actually, I want to say, they're the partner that really got me, I would say, the most excited about its potential. And I hate saying this out loud, so I'll just say it right now. We'll have to do another webinar. When you go watch the recording, it doesn't do it justice. So Interprenet is using AI to deliver live translation in multiple languages in your sanctuary. It is the coolest technology. It's one of the coolest uses of AI in the church. So imagine, if you will, somebody walks in, they speak Spanish, they speak Portuguese, but they've got their smartphone. Doesn't have to be an iPhone, it can be either. They scan a QR code at the back, they pick up a pair of cheap headphones, they choose their language, your pastor starts preaching, and between 1.5 and 2 seconds behind live, they are both hearing and seeing the sermon in their language. So it's transcribing it to the screen. So let's just say I'm speaking Portuguese. I'm reading Portuguese words on the screen and hearing an AI voice speak the Portuguese language in my ear. Very, very cool. It is one of the coolest demos to do. Sorry, guys, I lost control again. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. And then our very, very first integration, or first partnership that we ever had is a company called Boodlebox. So some of you have been watching and you're like, how do I get my hands on all this goodness? We on the innovation team at ACS would tell you, we're going to recommend you start with a tool from a company called Boodlebox. They'll give you a 30-day free trial. You've got to use our ACST code. Again, Trace gets to talk about all that in a minute, but Boodlebox brings about 10 to 15 of these AI engines into one unified login, one unified platform, and the ability for you to mix and match them as you go. So it is generative AI across the board. So it's the ability to do text, the ability to do images, the ability to do text and images in the same thread. It's really, really cool. One of the things I love about them, and we really spent a lot of time working on with them, is we got them to build this, the pricing for it, so that it is very ministry friendly. They'll do something called a utility pricing model, so that it will only charge you for the users who actually use it in a given month. So this is one to totally check out. It's very, very cool. I'm going to let you guys advance the slides because it keeps coming and going.
I'm relying on Leanne for all of the advancing. I figured that's one more tool I can't really keep up with. So thank you, Leanne. We're so grateful for you. As Chris mentioned, we couldn't really delve into these partners' solutions in depth today. So just know that we have brought each of these partners into their own webinars where we've talked with them, they've demoed, shared their solutions. They've even talked about like what kind of discounts or things that we get to give you guys as our ACST customers. So if you want to watch any of them, this URL that you see at the bottom of the screen or the QR code will take you to a web page with all of our past webinar recordings, all centered on using AI in ministry. And as you can see on that final bullet on this slide, we've even done a deeper dive into Boodlebox specifically because it's an incredible tool for collaborating with fellow staff or ministry partners in using AI together for kingdom purposes. So we hope you'll find these webinars useful.
All right, let's talk about some of these tools that you can get going with right away. So again, here's kind of a smattering, if you will, of the tools that we kind of talked about today with some bonuses in there. ChatGPT, Claude, Sora, Flux, Ideogram, again, all generative AI tools. All of those that I just mentioned are all available inside of Boodlebox, as is Gemini and Perplexity. So most of these are going to be text or image. Perplexity is very interesting in that it is a research tool. So you can ask it to do research against the web. It'll go out and grab a bunch of data, summarize it, bring it back, and even cite it. So if you're trying to do some research, it is a really interesting tool. So let's pretend your pastor is trying to do, maybe he's looking for some cultural references. He's looking for things that are happening in the culture, trying to be incredibly relevant. Perplexity could help him by doing that research, pulling it in, citing it so that he can know that it's not imagining, it's not hallucinating, which is the thing that's talked about inside of AI. Fathom is a really cool tool that our team has embraced big time. So think of it like your third wheel in all of your meetings. So Trace loves Fathom. In fact, Trace sometimes comes to a meeting that I am in, drops off her Fathom and leaves, which is so rude that she's going to drop off her little
I call it my Fathom deposit.
Drops off her little AI friend to take notes and record me, and then she leaves. Notebook LM is pretty interesting. It's more of a, I would call it a little bit more of a fringy AI, but if you want to create a podcast, a 2-person podcast of a giant, volume of text, Notebook LM, they've got a free trial that you can do. Upload your text, give it about 4 or 5 minutes. It'll create a 15 to 20 minute audio podcast where 2 people are going back and forth, even interrupting each other, talking about the content. It's become quite popular with college kids who basically are taking all of their notes from a semester, uploading it, creating a podcast to go listen to while they're working out that's reviewing the material that they've worked on. Across the bottom, we've got some tools that probably you've seen. Obviously, Copilot, most of your churches are probably going to be using some version of a Microsoft license. So Copilot baked into most of the tools. I'm going to be honest with everybody. It's not our favorite AI engine. We've played with it. We're not as crazy about it as we are the other tools. We kind of feel the same way about Gemini inside of the Google stack, but we're putting them here because they're going to be things that you run across. I'm going to let Trace talk about Adobe Photoshop because she plays with it far more than I do.
Yeah, it's been really helpful. As you saw earlier, one of the sermon series brand slides that I created, I will use Photoshop to help generate things. I will use Adobe Photoshop's AI to remove certain things out of an image. So when I had all of those hearts, I actually had it remove a lot of the hearts from a part of the slide so that we could put all of our sermon text in there. So Photoshop AI it's come a long way. It's been doing some really cool, stellar things. We took a picture of our pastor who was we were praying over him, and there was a couple of people's heads in the shot. And so I used Photoshop AI to kind of remove them. And in the process, it had to generate our elders' feet that we could, because the head blocked the feet. And so AI had to like come up with what these elders' feet look like. And it gave me a few options. I picked the one that looked the best and we moved on. But it's got some really slick AI features built in. And then also all of these tools, most of these tools our team uses. And our team did a webinar where we just did a deep dive. Like we did a full-on tool roundup, each one of us. Patrick, who's not here today, the three of us just kind of talked about the tools that we enjoy using, how we use them, and kind of walk you through all of that, whether it's using these tools for work, ministry, or just regular life. So that webinar is also on our website. So on the previous slide, and you will get a PDF of this deck, so you don't have to worry about losing that QR code or URL. But that page on our website will show you all of our webinars, and this is one we had so much fun doing that one. So another tool that I'm excited to talk about, because it's another one that our team developed. It is also very near and dear to my heart because it was born out of a need that my own church had. So I told Chris that it would be great if AI could generate coloring pages for kids that were topically relevant for our sermons, that the kids who sat through church will be hearing a message on, maybe not always understanding, but seeds are being planted. And then they could color the same theme, reinforcing biblical stories and lessons for kids. And Leanne, you can go ahead and advance through so they can see a few different coloring pages. So I expressed this wish, and Chris said, stand by, which I've learned is code for something amazing is about to happen in front of my very eyes. And before I knew it, he had AI generate our first coloring page. And from there, this concept exploded. Our team developed this entire solution. You simply prompt color creation with a Bible verse. It'll even understand things like Matthew 5:5. Or you can plug in a topic, and it will present you with some different scene options. So it might say, you want a scene of, Jesus talking to his disciples, or you can type in your own scene. And then from there, it generates a coloring page. And every time a coloring page is generated, it lands in the community library that all of the users have access to. You can search them, you can tag them, favorite, download, print, whatever. And in fact, all of these images that you see here were generated by churches, and they are in our library. So, and the best part, you guys, it's free. So go check it out, share it with your children's ministries, your mission teams, parents, friends, whoever. And our prayer truly has been that the benefactors, those kids, will get to learn more about their creator through coloring. This one's you. Did we lose you, Chris?
Sorry, I was talking. So let's go ahead and talk about some tips to get you started safely and ethically. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk about responsible AI use in ministry. So as you've noticed today, we've been talking about AI to be used as a help, as a tool to augment what you're doing, not to replace people. So here I say, all that we're doing on the AI side here is how do we accelerate ministry, not replace people, but how do we accelerate ministry? So to that end, a couple things that we want to talk about to you with responsible AI use. Use it to help. Don't use it to write an entire sermon. No. As I told my pastors when I first showed them this, and some of them were freaking out about it, I said, I am fully convinced by God and the Holy Spirit that the best sermon any of you has ever taught was one that God had taken you through personally. So I don't know if that's true for you guys, but in my pastor's case, I've known all of them for a very long time, over 20 years. And every one of them, the best sermon they've ever taught was because God walked through a fire with them, and then they lived to tell about it. Oh, sorry. I mean, they went on to teach about it. So at any rate, you can't replace experience with AI. But in that, responsible use, protect your church data. And what do I mean by that? If you're going to ask AI to analyze some of your data, specifically about people, you need to be aware of some things. If it's free, your data is not safe. Okay, please hear me say that. All of the free AI systems out there, I would be wary of. Many of them, if you read the fine print, they are harvesting your data, or they have the freedom to harvest your data and use it to train the next model. So please be careful with your church data. Now, if we're talking about a marketing description for the men's barbecue, who cares? You don't care if everybody steals it and if every AI engine in the future knows about it. But if you're talking about specifically, I want to say anything involving PII, personally identifiable information, name, address, phone number, email, I would be careful. That is just Chris's common sense. Okay, so be mindful of that. If it's free, I would treat it hostile, even if it isn't free. One of the reasons we are sharing BoodleBox so much with you guys is we have vetted it. We have sent it through the ringer. It uses enterprise class data connections. All of your data is your data. It is not harvested. It can't be harvested. It's why it's also trusted by government and some higher education institutions. Okay, all about context. So feed AI good data, ask AI good questions. You are going to get better output. Don't be afraid to say no. One of the most powerful things that you can tell the AI is, no, that isn't what I want. When you do that, almost like in real life, this entire thread of I was going this direction, no, means abandon that and choose a new path. So it makes the neural network rework the problem. And I want to say this, if you're part of a larger staff, encourage experimentation. You know, one of the sessions that Trace alluded to is we actually did a whole session on having an AI buddy, this person-to-person collaboration, because Trace and I are actually AI buddies. We work together, but we also share ideas. And what's really awesome is she made the joke, I don't really know if it was a joke, about when I would say, hang on, I'll go try stuff. But some days Trace comes to me and goes, hey, couldn't AI do whatever? And I have the moment where I go, yes, and I never would have thought of that, because we are both attacking AI from different directions and from different vantage points. So I want to leave you with this. If some of you are feeling a little bit worried about AI or it scares you, artificial intelligence is not our enemy nor our savior. It is a tool. Like fire in the hands of humanity, it can illuminate or destroy. Let's choose to wield it with wisdom for creation, not conquest. So I leave you with that to say we want to use AI responsibly. And just a reminder, it's a tool, and it's a tool that keeps getting better.
I know Chris said we're leaving you, but we have one more thing. You've heard us talk about Boodle quite a bit, and that's because it is one of our favorite tools, and ACS Technologies has a partnership with them. They have graciously agreed to allow us to offer 30 days for free using our QR code. And as you heard Chris say, it's totally vetted. So being able to collaborate with others and stacking AI models onto one another in the same conversation, allowing the context that Chris mentions is so key to remain in that conversation, has taken our work and our ministries and our lives to a whole new level. And we hope that Boodle does the same for you. So be sure to use that promo code ACST free when you go use that QR code to get that first month free. I think you'll be glad you did. And then I've got one more thing. This is not an AI tool. However, you guys, this is so cool. It was developed using AI. So, I mean, it sort of counts, right? You can generate QR codes customize them just as you've seen with all of the QR codes that we've sprinkled into these slides. You've probably noticed, maybe if you're a communications person, I've matched the color scheme of the QR codes to the presentation. I've added little images or logos to them. In QR Maker, you also have metrics, so you can see how many people have scanned your codes at different periods of time. And we felt that while it's not an actual AI tool, that it's helpful enough for churches or for anyone that we at least wanted to give it an honorable mention to you today. And it's free. So scan the code, scoop that product up, and your communications team will thank you.
And it was completely built. The first version was built by AI. So that makes it kind of cool too.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Chris and Trace, y'all have done amazing, but we have some questions. So we're going to open up the Q&A. If you have questions, throw them in the Q&A panel. We're going to start working through those. The very first one is, what is Fathom? So can y'all tell us a little bit more about Fathom?
Yes. Oh,
Right,
Fathom.
Trace.
I call Fathom my meeting assistant. So what you do is, and they do have a free version, by the way, but you can have Fathom automatically join like all of your meetings or only some of your meetings. And those meetings are typically, like we're doing here. So they're going to be like remote or virtual meetings. And it's going to create a recording. So you'll have an audio visual recording when you're done. And it will also provide a transcription. But then it's also going to scrape the meeting and come up with action steps that it thinks that you or your team or the people in the meeting need to take care of. And it will even assign them to different people in the meeting. It will summarize the meeting. So it's got some really cool tools built in, and kind of like what Chris said, sometimes I'll just jump in a meeting really quick and I'll just deposit Fathom and then I'll leave. But then I can go back later and check and see if there were any action steps for me or for our team. It's really cool tool. I love it, and I don't think that I can live without it.
Awesome.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Perfect. So there was another one when y'all were talking about Perplexity. Is there another app out there like that, but free? So Perplexity, obviously you have to subscribe if you want more than just a few chats per day. Is there something out there similar to that, but free?
Not really. I mean, again, kind of go back to where I started with. At some point, you're really free gets hard because all of these AI engines are using, it's called tokens, but it's using these large language models that eat up a bunch of power and live in data centers and everything else. And some of you've heard the woes of that, but it's always getting better. So I haven't seen anything else out there that's free. I mean, I know Perplexity has, you can do probably 4 or 5 a day for free. There are some other tools out there. So Google and OpenAI both have something called deep research, which actually goes, it's insane. It almost writes you an entire term paper on the topic and cites everything as well. So there's probably some other tools out there that are free. Perplexity kind of became the baseline for doing research. But like I said, both OpenAI and Google Gemini have been introducing their own concepts of deep research. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something, but I'm not 100% sure what it might be.
Awesome. So another question, what about the usage rights for images created via AI? Copyright issues, being able to use the image directly from AI and not altering it in Photoshop.
So we'll talk about that one pretty quick. We've done, again, if you go back and watch some of our other webinars, there's kind of more of a deep dive on this one. Right now, the law of the land is they are copyright free. Okay, so the brass tacks are they are copyright free. Why are they copyright free? You're not searching an image library. When AI creates something, it is literally creating pixel by pixel from nothing. Okay, so we're starting from scratch. Now, let me give my church friends some very important guidance. I would be very careful around things like likeness. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Asking AI to take a photo of your pastor and a photo of Michael Jordan and have them jump shotting each other, or you know, your pastor checking Michael Jordan while he's going for that pivotal slam dunk. Okay, now you've invaded Michael Jordan's likeness. So what I'm going to say to you is, would not do that. Dear AI, create a very tall basketball player that my pastor is checking. Totally okay. So, so let's not get lost here. Copyright, there's really no issues with copyright. You will run into issues if you're violating likeness or somebody else's copyright. Like, for instance, you can't use, my pastor wanted to use Mr. Potato Head in one of his sermons a long time ago. And I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of copyright nonsense to do that. So we just ended up using a giant potato that we stuck parts on. So again, copyright, the image itself is copyright free. Be careful with the content and what you're doing, that you're not violating likeness.
Awesome. So we had a follow-up question from not that answer, the answer before that, Chris. What is a token?
A token is the unit of measure for a large language model. It typically consists of between 3 and 8 words, depending on the language, but it's how large language models, ergo generative AI, bills, prices, tracks, usage. Usage is all based in tokens. I knew that one was going to come around and get me.
One of the last ones, what AI tools are included in Boodlebox? I know, Trace, it's showing you're typing that, but I didn't know if y'all just want to say that out loud for those who may also be wondering.
It changes, but all of your major LLMs are there. So Claude, Gemini, OpenAI, so ChatGPT. Also Pi, which is an emotionally aware generative AI. It's a lot of fun to play with Pi. Then you're going to have all of your primary image generators. So you'll have Flux, Ideogram. They just added Sora. And Sora, if anybody, Sora is my personal favorite right now. It does really cool infographics and just image generation by and large. So it has a couple of other engines that I am forgetting. But one of the things that it does that's really cool for churches in the beginning, it kind of has a training wheel mode where you can use their
coach mode. Yes.
What's that?
It's coach mode.
Coach mode. I call it training wheels because whenever I log in, I'm like, turn off the training wheels. I know what I'm doing. But if you ask kind of a not contextually detailed enough question, it interrogates you. It goes, I need to know more if I'm going to actually help you. Tell me, did you mean this? And what about this? And what about that? So it's really great when you're starting. I'll just say it annoys me because then I'm like, no, I didn't mean that. I don't want to ask those questions. Just go. But it is really cool. You can hit their website. Again, we've got a 30-day free trial, no risk, no credit card, no nothing. Just go try it. It really is transformative.
Yeah.
And for those of us newer,
I was going to mention that as a response to that question, I did paste in a link that takes you to Boodle's page where they list all of the AI models. They just introduced Sora, so they haven't gotten that into that page yet, but that does give you a pretty good idea of what's available.
Yep. And for those of you new to AI, like me, it also has HelpBot and PromptBot, so it will help you along the way, and those are amazing. I don't turn off my training wheels. I love them. They're awesome.
But it's so forgiving too. Like you can ask a question in such a dumb way, and it's still going to give you a pretty good answer, but then you learn maybe how to ask it better next time. So
exactly.
Well, one of the cool parts is I don't even know if Trace caught this or if any of you saw it, but when Trace was showing you her prompt, she wrote red, R-E-A-D. So at the very end of her prompt, she said read, not read. But here's what's great. AI understands intent. And it looked at it and it went, oh, she didn't mean that. She meant this. And in fact,
the color red. Yeah.
More than once. And actually, for some of you guys, if you're working like in biblical counseling, or I mean, even some of the pastors, you know how we as humans, we will sometimes infer emotion from something that we're reading because of either a bias, because I've already had some kind of negative interaction with somebody. So sometimes when I read something and I feel like it's maybe hostile, I copy that email. Now I only do this in Boodlebox because again, I would consider my email to be stuff I don't want private. I'll just ask it, tell me explain the emotional content or the intent of this. And what's great about AI is it has no preconceived notion. It doesn't know that Trace and I had an argument last week. It doesn't know any of that. It literally
We had an argument last week.
it literally only analyzes the text and looks for the intent of the text. So again, it's one of those really, really cool superpowers of AI.
Awesome. So I think I can answer one really quickly. We had a question: are we attending TCN? We will be at TCN this year. Look for us. We'll be there. And another question, Chris. Nice prints in your background. Did you create them, or did you use AI to create them?
No, those were all created by my wife and I. They are called flood paintings. So you literally pour paint on canvases that has a product called flood in it, and then you blow it around with a straw. So it's abstract art because I am not actually artistic. This is as close to artistic as I get.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, Chris and Trace. I'm going to wrap us up. We only have a minute left. If you have more questions, please visit acst.com or you can give us a call. You can see our number there on the screen. We would love to talk with you, learn a little bit more about your church's needs, and see how we can help you with some next gen tools that we're creating. Be sure to attend or watch recordings of our AI ministry webinar series. You can see there, kingdomcreations.ai. That's where you can find all of those webinars. And of course, at ACST, our goal is simple. We want to equip your church with the tools of tomorrow so that you can better serve your people today. So I appreciate you all taking your time out today to spend with us, learn a little bit more about using AI in your ministries. And Chris and Trace, as always, this has been wonderful. Thank you.